thesis? I said, I'm going to go out to learn to see, to discover, and to realize things that I've never noticed before because I'm failing. There's nowhere, I have nothing to lose. The idea of a photograph as going out and collecting it, I wasn't getting anything. And yet there were the 3 or so photographs that there was something new. Go out and look for something new. So one of the things that I used to do then, and I do today, I take a place and I randomly sit there and say, okay, do your exercise. And the exercise is this. You don't move from that chair. You're going to die there until you see something new. It doesn't matter where you are. Discover something new. Notice something new. And so then you start taking a frame and going like this, or if you want something smaller, you go like that. You've got a zoom lens and you frame it, and you look, and you look, and you listen, and you try, and then all of a sudden, after looking for long enough, you realize that there is stuff out there, and that what you're looking at, it doesn't really matter what, is framed. It's a composition. And usually it's a good composition. Doesn't matter what you're looking at. It's just that you weren't able to accept it as a composition because it's not subject matter. It's something you never would have photographed. You're not at all interested in it. And that's not how you make a composition because we know all the rules. And that's why when they taught me photography and they said, go out and make a magazine cover, it was the worst assignment you give somebody. Because it's saying, you have the knowledge and the ability to go out and do a cover of Life magazine. What an insult. An insult to all the photographers who do the cover of Life magazine, and an insult to you as a person, saying, you've come to this school and you know. If I know, then there's no reason for me to go to this school. The fact is you don't know. And the teachers there should have done what I like to do with students and say, we don't know how to see. We have to learn how to see if we are going to improve and climb that next step. Because until then, everything that we are going to do is something that's going to come from our common knowledge. It's not going to always be common, but it's going to be pretty well what I did the first year. I was above the rest for 1 year. That's what I was able to show, and they said, hey, you're good. You get the A. But in the second year, everybody caught up. We were all the same. And then we were all stuck. And if you were still expressing yourselves, which everyone was doing, and that's what we were taught to do, you were in trouble. Because either you had a certain other understanding that you would use and go beyond what everyone else would do, or you're trying to express yourself and you don't know what to say. And I'll stand in front of a class and they say, we want to express ourselves. And I say, okay, here's your chance. Tell them. What do you want to express? And that's a great way to get a quiet classroom. About what? What do I have to say? The answer is, truth is, you don't have anything to say beyond what everybody else knows. What do you want to express? But this is a slogan that we learn. When we think of the pyramid of learning and producing something, you've got a couple of wonderful TED Talks, and one of them is about how to sell. By a fellow named Sinek, S-I-N-E-K. It's worth seeing, and I show it in my classes. And he talks about selling. He says you can't sell a computer because of the hardware that it's got, the memory it's got and stuff. He says, you want to sell something, I have a dream. Now that's interesting. Not because of the computer. And he talks about Martin Luther King, that he got so many people to come on that evening or that day, not because it was something that everybody didn't know, but because he was able to talk about a dream. What's the dream in photography? What's the dream in art? What is our purpose in doing art? And if we can get to that purpose as the top of the pyramid, instead of talking about the product of the photograph, I want the photograph. Well, my answer is, I don't care about the photograph. I don't want the photograph. I said, in this class that I do in Italian, on the first day, we understand very, very clearly that What this class is about is not about the product. It's about me. It's about learning. Not me, Yosaif, but me, the class. Me, every single person. That the whole concept of art is about discovery. It's about adventure. It's about learning how to see, becoming aware of life and connecting with it. This is exactly what artists, who are great artists, say. Edward Weston says it over and over in his daybooks, and one of the most exciting things he says in this is when he talks about self-expression. And this is something that I've shown my students at Pizzala for many years already. Self-expression, he says, the more of it that you put into your work, no matter what the art is, the more self-expression, the more you weaken your images. He says art is not about self-expression. It's about adventure. It's about discovery. It's about becoming aware and sensitized to yourself constantly. New things, new things. He says if you would ask me about a picture that I just took, I don't like to use the word taking pictures, but if you would ask me about a photograph that I just made and what it means, he says, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you. And he says, if you ask me why I take it, I probably wouldn't be able to answer you that either. Why did you photograph it if you don't know what it means? I wouldn't be able to answer you. My work is always a few steps ahead of me. It's stuff that I don't really understand, I don't really know. The whole concept of discovery and sensitization is exactly that. It's touching something new and trying to connect with it. And when I have students today, and I do teach a course in street photography for the last 4 or 5 years, and I'm doing it my way now, because it's not in the photography department, but rather it's the foreign student exchange unit, and my direct superiors are the 2 people who run the program and know absolutely nothing about photography. I finally have that freedom to do what I want. And in the first day of class, after I read to them and give them the theory, what we have is this understanding that in this class we are not going to express ourselves. And I don't care about photographs. I want you to go out and see new things, discover, be aware, look at things. And we have all kinds of exercises, and they start. And most of them, or many of them, have no knowledge in photography, and all of a sudden they start coming in with that spark in their eye of discovery and adventure. And they're starting to notice things, and it doesn't matter where, because they do the same exercises of learning how to see, and they don't care about the result, because they realize that the real result is not the image. It's about learning how to see and trying to figure out where you are in life and understanding your connection with it, with the use of a camera, which is the closest instrument in terms of all the different art forms that I know that can really touch life and cut a slice of time and space and being, so that you can sit and study and listen and learn. Something you can't do with other mediums. The idea of freezing a fraction of a second so that you can look at it for an hour and study all of the rhythms and all of the dialogue and all of the connections and come to a certain feeling at the end of 15 minutes of looking at an image and say, that is true to life. And it means something. And it's like that. Life is like that. In the other room, the photographs that I have are about the same thing. They're about the journey in each of the different projects that I took. That this one, I'll pass it around. This photograph was number 2 out of 1,000 images that I took with a 5x7 camera. A 5x7 means that the size of the negative is half of the size of the inner frame of this picture. This is enlarged twice. It's twice the size of the negative, this picture. So it's a beautiful old looking camera. So it's about an iPhone. It's about Not much. It's about 110 years old, and it's such a delight to hold in your hand this handmade camera with the bellows from back then that is so soft and wonderful. And it's this love affair, you know, and you go out and you photograph, and this was the first thing I came back with when I was finally in an area which I felt was exciting to me, and that it was so complicated and so wonderful that I had subject matter that matched my life experience and was beyond it. In Israel, we have a problem that it's very sparse out there in nature. You don't have many places where everything is so compact because there just isn't enough water for that. You can't have a forest that's dense like the ones that we're used to or would like to have. And Nahal Katlav had it, and a few other Nahalim. And this was a key photograph. Here's some other ones that I did in Nahal Katlav that followed. This was already after I was learning to see. This was in the beginning, relatively. No, it wasn't so much in the beginning. But that first one was baffling. This was maybe years ago, but I worked in there for a couple of years. I was in Nahal Katlav for, I don't know how many hundreds of hours, maybe, I don't know if it was 1,000 hours.